Anatomy and Physiology 1. Now, this is the start of the first semester of a 2-semester sequence. The idea we're going to start with here is trying to build a foundation of what anatomy and physiology is. Now, to do this, we have to go through and what do the terms anatomy and physiology actually mean? So we'll start with the term anatomy. Now, you can see there's a definition of what anatomy is. This is the textbook definition. The study of the structure of body parts and their relationship to one another. Well, that's great to memorize a definition from a textbook, but it's more important to understand what does it mean to you. How would you define anatomy? Well, anatomy is the parts and pieces. Anatomy is all the structures and cells. It's all the molecules. Well, sure, any of those are correct. Anatomy is going to be all the physical pieces that make up your body. From the bones and the muscles, the rest of the organs, down to the cells and the molecules. And that's why you can see down lower, looking at gross anatomy or macroscopic anatomy, as well as microscopic anatomy. Now, gross anatomy or macroscopic anatomy is all the things you can see. So it's bones, muscles, skin, hair. It's what is the physical, visible parts of your body. We'll be going through those in conjunction with the microscopic anatomy. In the case of microscopic anatomy, you're looking through a microscope or a camera that magnifies, but something to aid your vision because you simply can't see it, too small. So we're going through some organelles and cells, the different histological features of the tissues that make up your body. So that's great. That's all the structures and parts. But we also need to go through the physiology. What is physiology? Well, you can see there's a textbook definition up. It's the study of the function of the body's structural machinery. Sure, great to memorize a textbook definition. But again, it's more important, what does it mean to you? Physiology really is how things work. It's looking at how all the organs, all the cells, all the tissues, how everything functions in your body. Looking at the different metabolic processes, the different neural pathways and how a signal is sent, how a muscle contracts to cause a movement. Physiology is the how it works. To anatomy's what the physical structures are that can carry out the task. Together, that's anatomy and physiology. That's what we're focusing on throughout this course. As we start studying and looking at the A&P, or the anatomy and physiology, there's 3 different ways you can look at it. Now, each way has its own benefits, and we'll focus on one primarily. I'll let you know that in a second. But here's one called regional studying. In the case of regional studying, you're looking at everything in that particular point. So take an arm or a hand or the head or neck. You study everything at once. So if you're looking at the hand, you're looking at the integumentary system, looking at the skeletal system, the muscular system, the nervous system, the lymphatic system, everything that goes into that. Now, that can be a little overwhelming because you look at all different parts at once. But at the same time, it can be beneficial because you're getting the whole picture at once. Again, double-edged sword, benefits and detriments. In this course, we'll be focusing more on the systemic studying. Systemic looks system by system by system. We'll look at the nervous system, head to foot. Look at the muscular system, head to foot. Skeletal system, integumentary system, so forth. Now, this one has some benefits because you're looking at the same functionality throughout the entire body at once. But the catch or the potential detriment is not tying it back into previous systems. So it's going to be very, very important. Every new system we cover, go back and refresh the previous systems. Figure out how did this new system tie into all those previous systems. So in this first half, Anatomy and Physiology 1, we're going to look at integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular system, and nervous system. So as you get into the skeletal system, well, was there any way to tie that back into the integumentary system? Get into the muscular system. Any way to tie that back into the skeletal and the integumentary? Get into the nervous system. Tie it back into the previous three. The goal is to build the entire body. So going system by system can be beneficial, learning all at once, but don't forget to tie it back in. Understand how it's all working together. And then we have surface. In the basis of surface anatomy, looking at things on the skin's surface, like a bump. Well, what bone or what landmark is that? Or this protrusion of flesh here might be a muscle. The idea is using what you can see on the surface of the skin to give indications of what is below it at that point. And we'll deal with this a little bit as we go through it as well. All right, back to some physiology. Again, physiology, how things work. But as you can see up here, consider the operation of specific organ systems. Well, sure, yeah, we're definitely doing that. But as you look at how the organ systems work, you're understanding then also how the anatomy plays into those organ systems. Here's an example. Every muscle in your body is an organ. So take the biceps brachii. It's your upper arm. When that contracts, it moves your arm, causes flexion of the arm. Well, what's the physiology behind that muscle? What's going on inside that muscle that makes those muscle fibers contract? That's what we look at. The physiology that then causes the anatomy to move and function. We'll look at this every single system we'll go through. We're looking at this physiology part. The idea, dynamic nature. Your body is not just one simple, oh, it's right or wrong, yes or no. There's huge ranges of complexity and functions and values. There's hundreds, if not thousands of tasks all running at the same time. I mean, right now, heart's beating, you're breathing, blood pressure regulation. You're looking at all the different ions in your blood being balanced, the sodium, the potassium, the calcium, the carbon structure of your entire system is all being coordinated. Your DNA is being read to make sure that the proteins are being structured and being functional and built. So we have all these different parts and pieces working together. It's quite complex when you think about it. But as we work system by system, we'll understand more and more of that as we go along. And the idea is focusing on the function of the body. Start at the cell level and build up to the gross or macroscopic level. Because you can't understand how something physically works as a whole, like a muscle, without understanding how the cells within it are working to make the bigger picture work. So again, building up this complexity from the simplest to the largest, most complex. And when we start going into this, we'll also deal with called the principle of complementarity. The principle of complementarity, function always reflects structure. Your muscles pull on the bones. The bones are built so they move when the muscles pull. Your heart's beating. Sure, it has 4 chambers carrying the blood. Bring the blood in, move it down, pump it out. 2 sides because it's oxygen rich and oxygen poor. Function reflects structure. We'll see that over and over as we go through all the different organ systems. So really, the structures are built and designed and based on how the function will occur. Take the elbow, for example. Elbow moves and bends at flexion, extension. That's all based on what that movement is. So the muscles are going over that elbow, over that joint, to make sure they contract to cause that movement. Same for the wrist. But now the wrist has flexion, extension, as well as abduction and adduction. We'll get to those later. But all those movements have muscles that are going across the joints on those particular sides to make it work. Function and structure are always tied together. So plenty of things to discover, plenty of things to explore as we go through this course.